Hi everybody, welcome to my studio. Today's project I'm really excited about, and I hope you love it as much as I do. This is a fall inspired mandala, and in this particular piece I'm using some mixed media techniques. My background has a lot of mixed media work in it, and I really love, I think, combining the mandala dot work with the mixed media, and I think I'll be doing more and more of that as I go along, so I'm hoping that you enjoy. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. This particular project is as a larger piece. This is actually on a 14 by 14 inch canvas, and you can see that I've got these fabric leaves here. They're really inexpensive, and I'll talk about a little bit about some other ideas that you might want to use if you don't want to use the fabric leaves. So there's some other options for you if you want to consider that. But it's a pretty large piece, and it's on this midnight green background, so it might be reading black, but it's actually a very dark deep green. And I really think that's a pretty look. It's not a color that I often use, but I really love the way it turned out. So this is the project that we're going to do, fall inspired. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. All of the materials that we're going to use for this project are in the description below. Just click on the Show More button, and that'll take you to a full list of the materials and some other information that's helpful. I also want to mention that I have this pattern as a digital pattern available in my Etsy shop, and you'll see a link up in the card, the little eye icon at the top right hand side of the screen. And if you're interested in following along, that pattern has some great information and detail in it. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm starting with a 14 by 14 inch canvas, and I am applying the Midnight Green just with a wide flat brush. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to put a couple of coats on this and just get it really good and coated. And then what I like to do after I've gotten all the paint sort of across the entire surface, I'll stroke down one direction and then across the other, and see how that really makes that really smooth and a nice surface. And then of course I'll set that aside to dry. So I picked up these fall fabric leaves at the Dollar Tree, and these are 2.5 by 2.5 inch leaves, the ones I selected. You can see that the packages come with lots of different types and some different sizes. I kind of debated on the green. Ultimately, I decided to use the yellow. One thing I noticed is that some of these have holes in them, and initially I wasn't too impressed with that, but as I thought about it, a lot of fall leaves have holes. So if you want to kind of go for a little different look, you might try those. So I ultimately selected these orange leaves and then the yellow. Some of the yellows had a little bit of orange on them as well. To get started, I prepped my leaves by applying a matte medium to the front and back. And it's just as simple as brushing the matte medium on. You could also use a gloss medium, but I happen to have matte medium. Lots of manufacturers, this one happens to be golden, but there's Liquitex, DecoArt, lots of them have a matte medium. And I'm doing this so I can prep the surface to accept paint. I could paint directly on the fabric leaves, but it does absorb the paint a little bit differently and has a little different look, so I kind of like this. I'll set those aside to dry, and then it's just a matter of peeling them off. I did put them on some freezer wrap, on the shiny side of freezer wrap, to peel them off. And what I'm going for is this painterly look with these gold edges. And I think that's really a pretty look. I'm starting off with the lipstick red, and I'm applying it with a Q-tip, and I'm just dabbing that paint on randomly to get a really painterly look. And I liked using the Q-tip because it was a nice little dabbing tool. So you can see that I'm not coating the whole piece. I'm just putting some color where I would see it in a natural leaf and using that Q-tip to apply it. The Q-tip actually worked out pretty good because I could just dispose of any of the ones when I changed out the color. And I'll do the lipstick red on all of the leaves, and then I'll come back and I'll add a layer of jack-o'-lantern orange. That's the orange color. And I'll just dab that on. I'm not looking to cover the entire leaf. I want that yellow to show through. So I'm just adding layers of color, and it'll really deepen the color. I'm coming in with the Festive green, and I'm going to add this fairly lightly. I will put it where I think I would expect to see it, you know, on a natural leaf, so sort of at the tips, at the base, and you can see that I'll just add a little bit of that. By the time I've cycled through all the leaves, the paint is dry enough to accept the next layer. I wouldn't want to add more layers when it was wet. And now I'm adding the Pizzazz purple, Same technique, just going over it. And now I'm using this, gold leafing pen. These are readily available, and I will just do the edges. Now all of these leaves are dry, so I'm waiting until they're thoroughly dry before I do the edges, and I'm not doing the edges in a straight line. I'm kind of ziggy-zagging them so it gives a more natural look. And I'll go all the way around the leaf. I think the gold added a nice little pop, and later I'm going to do top dots in gold, so I'll be coordinating and adding and complementing the gold that I put on these leaves. And I've gotten all the way around. Do that to each one of the yellow. And now I'm going to do the same technique with the orange, and I'm starting out with a cadmium yellow and just dabbing that on. Same exact process. Finish with the cadmium yellow. Now I'm going to add that jack-o'-lantern orange again, and a little bit of the festive green, just randomly. Isn't that pretty how these are coming together? I just really like that. And that matte medium really makes a difference to how these leaves, these fabric leaves, accept the paint. And now I'm applying the Pizzazz purple. That purple really pops on these leaves. It's really pretty. I don't want to cover up the base color, so I'm just randomly applying it a little bit sparingly. And then just like I did with the yellow leaves, I will apply the gold pen to each of the edges. One thing I want to mention about this gold pen, or anything really on your painting surface, be sure the surface underneath is dry so you're not picking up. I noticed that when I was doing this, if the gold was wet, and I put the leaf on top of it, it would come through in other parts of the leaf. So you want to kind of pay attention to that. So now I've got my canvases prepped and dried. I'm going to find the center just by going from corner to corner using my chalk pencil and making a mark. And then I will use my 12-inch stencil. These are in the Etsy shop. These are fun. These are really handy. But you want to find the center first and then place your stencil on top. And then I'm going to mark grids. Now I'm not going to go all the way out. This is about 5 or 6 inches out from the center. I don't need to go all the way out, because what I'm going to do is when I get the center placed, I'm going to take a look at my leaves and I'm going to start placing them on the canvas. So this matters if you have, or if you're going to use a different size canvas. You know, you really want to audition the leaves just to make sure that you've got enough space. So I'm going to put 8 of the yellow down, and then I'm going to put 8 of the orange down, and then I'm going to stand back and take a look at it and see what I think that looks like. Now I'm a little close to the edge, so I'm going to move these in just a little bit and take a look at how those line up there. And this is looking a little bit better to pull it in. And then I'll pull the orange in a little bit too. And you can of course do this with as many or as few leaves as you like. I ended up with a total of 16 for the 2 different rows. Once I've got those placed, I'm using a glue gun to glue these to my canvas. So I'm actually going to glue at the tips and then at the base of the leaf. And one thing I noticed as I was gluing these down, the fabric is really, really thin. And you can see the glue spot, you know, it's got like a shadow there, the glue spot. And I'll show you in just a minute. I want to get these tacked down, and I'll get them all tacked down. Now you also have a choice here of dotting your center and then putting the leaves on. those are those spots I was mentioning to you, and I'm just going back over with a little bit of paint to cover up those spots. Just using the same colors and the Q-tips that I used before, I will add a little bit of paint to disguise those. At any rate, what I was saying is that you can either put the leaves on first, like I did, or you can put them on after. Also, you can use paper, you could use embossing powders, you could use lots of different techniques to get your leaves on there. So now I've got my Pizzazz, purple Pizzazz, and I'm using the number P16 11.5 millimeter crochet hook to get my center dot. And I'll bring the camera in a little bit, and then I'm using my G6 4 millimeter purple Pizzazz, and I will put my 8 dots down. Again, I make a cross to make it easier for me to line them up. I don't always get exactly on the grid line, so I like to place my my cross first, and then I can go back in and space them a little bit better. So that's the G6 4 millimeter. Now I'm going to mix some colors. I'm going to take the jack-o'-lantern and I'm going to mix it with some cadmium yellow to get a medium, a light, a medium, and then the original orange. And I'm going in with the light orange mix. And you can just mix these in the proportion that looks good to you. I'm going in and with the G6 4 millimeter with that light orange mix, and I will add 8 dots. Now I'm going up to my H8 5 millimeter, and I'm using the medium orange mix, and I'll place 8 dots all the way around. These fall colors are really pretty, and it's a little unexpected to have the purple, but I have seen purple in my maple leaves. I have a flaming maple in my backyard, and it's already started to turn actually here in Colorado, and I often see purple. This is the J10 6 millimeter and the jack-o'-lantern orange. I'm just popping some little bubbles. That's why you saw me in there with my little dotting tool. And then oranges are sometimes a little bit sheer. I don't know if you know what I mean, but on the edges it kind of gets a little light. So I redotted those just to make sure there's enough paint there. And now I have my lipstick, and I'm using the K10 6.5 millimeter, and I'll place my 8 dots. Now I am dotting, I'm walking the dots around that lipstick red, and I'm using a mid-size nail dotter. I'm not using the largest one, I'm using a smaller one, and I will walk the dots all the way around. That's really pretty. I like the kind of glow that forms when you use, when you go from a lighter to a darker color. And I'll go all the way around. You'll notice that I went back in with a smaller size tool. If I feel like I ran out of paint on walking the dots, I'll just go in and dot a little extra around the edges. I'm using the G6 4 millimeter and the medium orange mix. Actually, that might be the light orange mix. I don't think it really matters. And then I will dot around with the jack-o'-lantern. And I think I missed telling you that larger dot is the L11 8 millimeter. And then I'll go around with the jack-o'-lantern to walk the dots, again using the mid-size nail dotter. I like to really watch out if I have bubbles forming and make sure I've got those popped before I move on. You will get holes if you let it dry, let the paint dry like that. So I like to kind of catch them. Now I'm using my G6 4mm and the lipstick red. Oh, little boo-boo there. Just use a Q-tip and roll off the paint, and then you can kind of wipe it away. Now I'm going up to the L11 8mm to put that larger dot, and I'll do that all the way around. Okay, and using the large nail dotter, I will walk the dots around using the medium orange mix. And get those all walked around. I'm using my G6 4mm to go in with the purple Pizzazz. As you can see, I'm repeating that pattern of the smaller dot and then the larger dot. And then I'm going in with my P16 11.5mm and purple Pizzazz for that larger dot. Using my largest nail dotter, I'm going around with the lipstick red and walking the dots around. And you'll notice I'm only going part way around, and then I go in with the smaller end of that tool to add more paint and bring those dots around, because I can't get all the way around that larger dot with just one load of paint. So I'll do that. I'll just put as much as I can and then go back in with a smaller tool and add the rest of the line. I know a lot of people say they struggle with getting enough paint on the walking the dots, but I hope you try out this technique of just using a smaller tool and starting at the midway point with another load of paint. And I think that that will help you, so you won't fret over that too much, and then you can draw that paint all the way around. See, I've used quite a small tool there to get the rest of it around. Okay, now I'm going in with the G6 4mm and the jack-o'-lantern orange. Just dropping a little extra paint on those. And then the P16 11.5mm and the jack-o'-lantern again. Oops, another little boo-boo. Don't be afraid. I mean, you're going to make mistakes, and you just have to learn the technique. I like to roll the paint off with that Q-tip, roll it towards the center, change out the Q-tip as much as I need to get the bulk of the paint up, and then you can kind of wash it away with a little bit of clear water and a dampened Q-tip. So we'll go around. That's the P16 11.5mm. I'm getting excited as it's moving out to the leaves. I'm just bursting some of the bubbles there. Now I'm going to expand the dotting a little bit on this one, so I'll have 3 rows. I'm starting out with a large nail dotter, and I'm using the light orange mix to go around. Now I'm going in with the large nail dotter again and the medium orange mix. And dotting around. Same technique to draw those dots all the way around by moving down to a smaller size tool and reloading with paint. Just keep going all the way around. We're almost in the home stretch with this particular row. You see, I turn my canvas often so that I can keep my hands out of the paint, number one, and then get a better angle for the painting. And sometimes I have to move down in size more than one tool, and that's okay. I like to get the dots all the way around. And now I'm going in with my largest nail dotter and the lipstick, and I'm going to walk the dots from the base up. And I'm not going to go all the way around. I'm just kind of forming a little bit of a bud, kind of a bud shape there. So I'll go a little ways up. I won't go all the way up to the top. And I'll just do that on each one. That's filling in the canvas a little bit more, adding some more color, adding a little bit more depth. I wanted to pull those up a little bit more, so I'm pulling them up a little bit more. Now I'm going in with my my P16 11.5 millimeter. So I'm done with the center, and now I'm almost done with the center. I'll go back in 1 minute, but I'm now adding the spikes, the little spikes for the leaves. So I'm using the P16 11.5 millimeter, and I'll place my large dot, and that's in lipstick. And then I'll use my K10 6.5 millimeter to place a larger dot below that one. I'm going to reduce the size of dots as I go down from that spike. And now I'm using my G6 4 millimeter to add the next size down below the third and then on top of that P16. I hope you can see that. So I've got 2 of those G6 that I'm putting on there. Now I'm using my largest nail dotter to add one more at the bottom of that spike, and then I'll move up to the top piece. I'm using my L11 8 millimeter to put a dot below, and you see that I'm spacing a little bit because I'm going to go around that with another kind of walk the dot design, and I want to leave enough space. So be sure you drop that down just a little ways, and that's with the L11 8 millimeter. And now I'm going in with my largest nail dotter and the medium orange mix and I'll place 4 dots in the cross, in a cross shape. That's the top, bottom, side, side. So north, south, east, west. And that's with the largest nail dotter. Or size to fit. You know, our dotting's all different, so we might have to change up the size of tool. And now I'm going in with what for me is my smallest tool, nail dotter, and I'm putting 3 dots in between those larger dots, and I'm getting kind of a cushion shape. And I'll do that all the way around. You can see that I place my center dot first and then on either side, so that helps me with my spacing. And that's just another interesting design element to add a little bit more color and interest. The piece is so big I have to keep picking it up and turning it. I hope that's not too making you seasick or anything. And I'm finishing up the last few. It's a little deceiving because I speed the I adjust the speed quite a lot here so that I can make the video, you know, more manageable length and size. I think this painting, I did this actually over several days, and I probably spent maybe 3 hours, I think, on the entire piece. And now I'm going in with, at the top there, I'm actually dotting on the leaf with my G6 4mm. And then I'll use my largest nail dotter to walk some dots up from that one. It's a little harder to see because I'm actually on the orange, but you can see, I think you get a good visual of how I'm walking some dots up there. Just to move my dotting up onto the leaf. I don't want to have a sharp break there, so I'm actually moving up and dotting on the leaf. And now I'm dotting on the yellow leaves, and I used my G6 and the medium orange mix to put a dot on, and then I used my largest nail dotter in the medium to walk some dots up. And now I'm going to go in and do my top dots. So for the top dots, I used the gold, and I tried to match a gold that matched the leaf, the edges of the leaves, and I just top dotted all of my dots, most of my dots, the larger ones, with gold, and that's it. Now I'm actually dotting on you can see I'm dotting now on the largest, you can see in the center, I've got top dots on most of the larger ones, and now I'm dotting on the spikes, also with gold, and just adjusting the size of my tool so that I go down a size that's small enough to get a nice top dot on there. And I wanted to keep it fairly simple because I have so much color going on here that I really wanted to keep the top dots in one color. But you could use, gosh, the sky's the limit on what kind of color palette you want to use here. Now I'm dotting on the leaves, and I'm just randomly placing different size. I'm using the nail dotters to just randomly place different size dots on there. And that's just going to give it a little extra glow at the base of those leaves. It's really, really pretty. And you can add, of course, as much as you like here. I sort of debated adding gold veins for the veins of the leaf, but then I kind of thought, no, I think I'll stick with this dotting, but I think the veining might look nice also. So if you wanted to try something like that, I think that could look quite pretty. And I'll do that on each of the leaves. I can't get over how pretty the leaves turned out with using the Q-tip to dab on that paint. So don't be afraid to try some different things. adding mixed media to your mandala, I think, is a nice addition. And like I mentioned in the intro, I've got some more ideas. Now, the last thing I did is I couldn't decide what to do with sort of the blank space that I had around, and I just decided to go in with the exact same color and add some random dots in the same color. And adding those random dots is how I added some texture. It's you can't really see it unless the light hits, but I thought it was really pretty. So here's the finished piece. I just think it turned out so great, and I'm really thrilled with it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hey, thanks everybody. I hope you love that project as much as I did. I was really inspired by the change of the season, so I really love the look of this particular piece. Let me know what you think about using mixed media with your mandala dot painting. I don't know if any of you do that. I'd love to see some of your artwork. I have a Facebook group. All of the information is down below in the description, so please check us out. Hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for joining me in my studio. Take care.